prediction being it's going to be number 2. And that's when it's withdrawn from the playlist. If I had £1 for every time I'd corrected someone going, it only got to number 1 because it got banned, you're just absolute nonsense. It'd have been number 1 anyway. With the value of music now and what you were saying, somebody said, you know, this little pocket on your jeans here,
yeah.
You know what that's for? That's for all your Spotify royalties.
Don't I know it, babe? Don't I know it? Hi, I'm Stacey Jackson.
And I'm Roy Bassnett.
Join us for the Gen-X-Perience Podcast every other week.
So if you were born between 1965 and 1980, that makes you a Gen Xer. And that being the case, that makes this podcast for you.
We are interviewing the most amazing people from all over the world in all walks of life, discussing culture, music, and politics.
The range is incredible. You're going to get to hear some wonderful stories.
So join us every other week for the Gen-X-Perience Podcast. I'm Stacey Jackson.
And I'm Roy Bassnett.
Hi, this is Stacey Jackson and
Roy Bassnett. Hello.
Welcome to the Gen-X-Perience Podcast. I am so excited. I am a fangirl of our new guest today, and I bet you don't know who it is. Anybody?
Well, I've got a feeling we've got a really good idea of it.
Well, why don't you show the T-shirt?
People watching might not necessarily be familiar. Now, I'm a little bit concerned.
Give them a hint. Let's give them a hint.
I'm going to give them a hint here with this.
Although I did learn something about this today.
And we're about to find that out, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. I'm actually a little embarrassed that I got that, but hey.
Well, but we are going to explore your embarrassment because our guest today on the Gen-X-Perience is none other than Brian Nash, who was the guitarist within Frankie Goes to Hollywood. Brian. Hey, there you are. Now, before we go any further there, Stacey thought she was doing the right thing. She went out and bought this T-shirt.
I thought it would be fun.
Being the consumer expert that he is, spotted straight away that it is not authentic.
But it's not a case of being a consumer expert. It's a case of being a grammar Nazi. Really.
Yes, and that is me.
Frankie is a group. So right. Frankie, as a group, the group doesn't says. The group say. They don't says.
Look at that.
And that's how all the bootlegs, that's how we spotted all the bootlegs, because people would used to think that Holly's name was Frankie as well, especially in America.
That's how it is. Let's do that, because, I mean, there's a lot of things we could talk about here, but we've obviously got to talk about Frankie Goes to Hollywood. So I'm going to hazard a guess. When Relax came out, when did we talk about? 81, 82?
It came out in late 1983.
Was it 83?
October 83.
How long had the band been together before that song dropped?
Kind of about 18 months.
Right.
Yes, and born not too far from here.
Yeah.
In what is now the Bridewell pub, which is, if you've never been in there,
and you call it Bridewell, yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It used to be the old prison, the police station.
That's it.
So your first gig was in there?
No, that's where the band was formed, because there used to be a rehearsal room in the 80s.
Yeah.
So there's a plaque up outside there now that says, it's got the Frankie Man logo and says Frankie Goes to Hollywood, formed here in 1980.
I drink in that pub and I didn't know that.
It's on the wall. You know when you go through the main courtyards, it's on the wall.
And it's a fantastic pub because it used to be a police station and all the cells are still there. So when you're sitting having something to eat or drink, you're sat in a cell.
It's great. You know why the cells are great as well? Yeah. Like if you two went in there for a drink, you wouldn't take the whole cell for yourself and someone would come in and go, do you mind if you sit here? And because you're in a very close environment, you end up talking to other people.
Your cellmate.
Right. Your cellmate.
Your new cellmate.
Your bunkie.
It's very cool. Well, how did the name Frankie Goes to Hollywood come up?
There was a book of illustrations by a gentleman called Armando Gallo in a book called Rock Dreams. And Armando Gallo also did the David Bowie Diamond Dog sleeve.
Okay.
And he'd done some stuff for the Stones. So it's one of the pages in this book was an illustration of the New York magazine with a picture of Frank Sinatra landing in Hollywood and being surrounded by teenagers. And the headline said, Frankie Goes Hollywood.
Right.
Because going Hollywood is an expression, isn't it?
Yeah.
Over there.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, he's gone all Hollywood.
Glitz and glamour.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So
he's gone all Hollywood.
You're in the pub. Okay. No name at that point, I would imagine. And were you in the pub because you were getting together because you thought we're going to discuss a band there, or did the conversation just happen when you were in the pub?
No, I was in a band with the drummer, Ped, and we were in a different band, and then Holly come and joined that band, and Ped left that band and started working with Mark O'Toole, and then Holly left the band and started working with Mark and Ped. And then Mark's brother joined that band, and then Mark's brother left and I joined. So there was like, there's kind of like in the cells at that time, there'd be different bands rehearsing in different cells.
Wow.
And so you'd sometimes get like sax player that'd leave one cell and go off, I don't like yous anyway. And then go 3 cells down and go, you're looking for a sax player?
That's brilliant.
It was quite a fluid band situations in it by a lot of, but also the Icicle Works used to rehearse there. Relax, Two Tribes, most of Pleasure Dome was written in that building.
Wow.
And you had all these songs down before you signed to a label or anything?
Yeah, most of them. And also the Icicle Works wrote Love is a Wonderful Colour and Birds Fly were written in that building too.
Really?
Tell me a little bit about, because I've mentioned this on conversations with you, and we had also, of course, the program director of the BBC on.
Mick,
Mick,
speaking to soon.
And I'm curious to know about the initial thoughts behind Relax, knowing what the lyrics were and risking whether or not radio stations would play it at all. So tell me the history of that particular song.
Well, yeah, just before you get there, because I want to know about as to whether or not there is any truth in the fact that Mike Reid caused all this. So let's get it from the horse's mouth.
I'd love to talk about this because it had actually been played on the BBC loads of times before it was withdrawn from the playlist. It was never banned. They never said it was banned. And then on the back, so it had limped up the charts and it got to number 55 and it went down a week. It went down to 56 and we got the Tube and the Tube put us on.
That was a TV show in this country.
And from that, it went to 35. And then because it was 35, we were eligible for Top of the Pops. Right. So we go and do Top of the Pops and we go from 35 to 6 with the midweek prediction being it's going to be number 2 the following week. And that's when it's withdrawn from the playlist. If I had £1 for every time I'd corrected someone going, it only got to number 1 because it got banned. It's just absolute nonsense. It'd have been number 1 anyway.
It was going
it was great for you in that way, because if you think about it, it also got people talking about it, and people want what they can't hear or what they can't have.
Well, how it worked for us in a lot of ways is that it meant that when it was withdrawn, you didn't get to appear on Top of the Pops in consecutive weeks. You'd had a week on, a week off.
Right.
So we do 35, then it's number 6, and it's due to be number 2. We'd have been on the next week.
Right. Yeah.
And people would have seen us. So at the end of the show, it never got played. It was just like, and at number 1, Frankie Goes to Hollywood's Relax, and then they credits rolled.
Ooh, because the rumor is different. The rumor is like, well, they didn't get to play again because the song was banned.
I mean, months later, Two Tribes comes out, goes straight into number 1.
Right.
And then Relax starts going up the charts again. And we end up with Relax at number 2.
Right.
Because a load of people who'd never heard Relax had only been introduced to the band because of Two Tribes. You're going to pay attention to a band that's just gone straight in at number 1. And in a lot of ways, the BBC felt what Mike Reid did was apparently he came home and he found his teenage kids rewinding the rather risque promo video. And that's what set him off.
Yeah.
And because he was such a big figure at Radio 1 at the time, he had his hissy fit and said, I'm not going to play this on air. They kind of had to back him. But when Two Tribes come out, they kind of worked in our favour because they were thinking like, God, we've had to back this idiot.
Put egg on the face.
Yeah, and so they kind of compensated for it. See, and like Two Tribes was getting played 9 times a day on Radio 1.
I agree with this, and I said this when we were talking to Mick Ord, that for me, that song was always, maybe I couldn't have turned around and said it was going to go to number 1, but that song was always going to be successful because you have to put Relax was always going to be successful because you have to put it in the context of music at the time. Nothing sounded like Frankie Goes to Hollywood at the time. That very distinctive bass was really something else. I mean, it was just something tremendous. And I agree. It would have gone to number 1.
It was on the charts for 52 weeks. It was in the top 100 for a year. You know what's interesting? It's like because we just came in and had this massive year and then kind of like disappeared for a bit and then the next record come out. If you listen to 80s radio stations, you can't listen to an 80s radio station without hearing Radio Gaga.
Yeah.
5, 6, 7 times a week, right? It never got to number 1. It was kept off number 1. by 2 Tribes.
No, I didn't know
For
that.
weeks and weeks
Wow.
and weeks. It was there. Freddie wasn't happy. He was throwing his toys out the pram at
Do you
E&I.
think MTV had something to do with that, or with? I mean,
No, not really, because it wasn't a hit in America. We did. I think Relax got like a top 40, and the album got to number 10. But
it was such a popular song. Like anybody that you would talk to now, any Gen Xer, if you said name your top 10 80 song, Relax would be one of them.
well,
Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah.
It depends. I don't know. It's kind of hard for me to be objective about it. You know, it still sounds great when you hear it now, but I'm kind of tired of hearing it. No.
I think I had a conversation with you about this actually, because you were saying, it wasn't a hit in America, but Frankie was successful in America, weren't they?
We did all right. I mean, again, it's such a vast place. We had 2 very successful tours there. So the first tour, arguably the best tour we ever did. So we had hit records here, and everyone's kind of like, what's this band like? And we were going to go to be playing places like Hammersmith Odeon and big theatre venues on the back of the success. And so we need to go and get this act together. We've got to go and get this record and get a show. And we went and played all of these clubs in America, and it was just brilliant. It was like, it's like we were musical bandits landing in this country. And it was a thing, we'd check into a hotel and take a book of matches with the hotel address on.
Yeah.
And either me, Mark, and Ped would have $100 in a note. We're never going to be $100 away from this address. So people are just, you'd be playing these kind of like places like the Ritz in New York. We did 3 nights at the Ritz, the Palace in LA, but we also played like much smaller venues. And students would turn up and go like, oh, do you want to come back to our campus? Where's that? It's like, it's 40 miles away. It's a bit far. We've got mushrooms. I'll go ahead then.
I'll tell you why.
So it was like, this was before security and people screaming at you, really.
Yeah.
And the people who came to see us were all Anglophiles. They were all people who had their eye on the British charts rather than what was happening in America.
Right.
And we did that tour and we came back here and we did 3 nights at the Royal Court, which was our first shows post-success on British soil. We were molten then.
Yeah.
We were absolutely on fire. When you look back on it now, it was over by then, really. The first bricks of the Jenga had come out.
Yeah.
Which I won't go into, but it's
just before you move off the American thing, I'd said this to you and you weren't aware of it, because I don't know if you remembered it. There was an episode of the A-Team, right, in which Mad Murdoch, right, is talking about Frankie Goes to Hollywood. And he says, have you heard of Frankie Goes to Hollywood? Great beat. It's a line in the A-Team.
Yeah.
I mean, you might have to look through a lot of episodes of the
once you're on the A-Team, you've made it.
But
You've made it.
Well, it would have been about the same time.
It was, we didn't get to do any television stuff there and doing radio. We got into real trouble over Rick Dees.
Rick Dees?
Yeah, so you would know who Rick Dees is. Rick Dees is like a radio legend, right? So we're in LA and we're going to K-Rock. K-Rock is like kind of like the antithesis of Rick Dees' Solid Gold radio.
Right. Okay.
And they're a bit groovy and they're a bit edgy. And we'd gone to meet Rick Dees, and he was too busy to speak to us. So we sent some researcher to come and ask the questions and go like, oh, Rick will put the questions in later.
Right, yeah.
And we sat in this cupboard, like literally like that with this 16-year-old girls just being told to ask these questions. So then when we went to K-Rock and they were saying, hey, you guys just been to see Rick Dees? And we said, no, we didn't get to see him. We got sent some minion. Yeah. And Mark O'Toole calls him a solid gold dickhead on K-Rock. And our manager's outside and he's just seeing the career being flushed down. Like you can't go on another radio station and call Rick Dees a solid gold dickhead.
Yeah.
And they said, well, look, he was rude. He couldn't even be bothered to turn up to speak to us. So, like, why? You guys have had us in here for an hour, playing records we want to hear and all that, and made to feel at
that
home.
was his loss, darling.
Yeah.
That was his loss.
Yeah.
I am telling you. I mean, come on. He probably was kicking himself in the end that he didn't actually get to do it.
But doing things like Saturday Night Live, which is, of course,
did
it's just
that?
on us. Yeah.
Just turned 50. Did you see their, they did a whole show.
Yeah, I seen McCartney on it, and it was like, God, it was like Old Yeller. Someone take him out the back and shoot him. It was, he wasn't very good.
Yeah, I know.
And I don't know whether he'd had a bad night the night before, but I just think it's gone.
At some point you get to that. I mean, I just saw a story where Billy Joel was performing just the other night and he took a fall on stage and the whole crowd just gasped. They were like,
Yeah.
I think he's like 75, 78, something like that. I mean, look, I saw Stevie Nicks perform. I mean, they just don't have that kind of mobility, but they still could fill up a stadium. Like if you went for a tour, and I know that we had to talk off air and you're like, no way, you'd fill up a stadium. You still would. I think you would.
Just on the one thing about Saturday Night Live before I move on from Saturday Night Live, we were on and they were having former presenters come back to guest present the show.
Right.
And I didn't realise the magnitude of the time that I got to meet George Carlin.
Oh my
Wow.
God!
And it was like, and it's only now that I know
George
that
Carlin.
George Carlin
Wow.
is just such unbelievable.
Very funny
I think
guy.
he was my father's favorite. Honestly, like brilliant comedian. Yeah.
But in terms of going back and doing it now, I'm 61 now. And let's say I've got 20 left. So let's say I get my 3 score and 10 on top for being a good boy. Then I don't want to spend the last 20 years that I've got doing stuff that I really don't want to do.
Of course, if you don't, I love what you do at this stage in particular.
and
I mean, you
it's
liked it
like-
then, but you're over it.
Oh, well, you get me.
Did you like it then?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I was 21 then.
Yeah.
You know, I was a different person. And it's like, you get loads of money. Something. I've never done anything for money in my life. There's no point. Money's not happiness. The job I'm doing now, I get paid decent for it. I'm still getting royalties from what I did 40 odd years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Why would I want to go out and do this? I've got nothing in common with the singer. Why would I want to spend time with him? I don't. I want to
That's
spend time with people who I love, doing
Yeah.
things I want to do.
Well,
For me, it's sad that you say that because, me and Joel, we are actually going to see Holly. Maybe you don't get it, but we're going to go to see him when he's on at the arena because that's the closest we're going to get to see Frankie Goes to Hollywood. And we, me and my daughter who's producing the show here, Laura, went to watch you when you did the pre-show for Eurovision.
Yeah.
And that version that you did of Welcome to the Pleasure Dome was astounding.
But it was
I'm
only
not
live.
just
It was
saying
only
it was-
live vocals.
Yeah, but it still was astounding.
But
I'm not
you know
bothered.
what? That was enough.
Yeah.
And you know the whole Eurovision experience. This was funny because we got no management and no representation. All of this kind of stuff comes through Universal, who are our new label. We got a record label now, not these people who we despised in ZTT, who never played nice in 40 years. But now we got these. Hey, this is a new relationship. And these guys go, do you want to do this? And the Eurovision thing, some guy said, look, I've been sent this from the production company we're doing it. And it's like, wouldn't it be great if we had Frankie playing Welcome to the Pleasure Dome to open Eurovision in Liverpool? And like every other thing that's come through, I just go, hi, Johnny, no thanks. Yours, Nasher. And then I get a phone call from Pez, who I speak to a lot, usually once every couple of weeks minimum. And sometimes we have 3 ways between me and my Mark. And he rings me up and he goes, so you're out, yeah? And I'm going, why? Why are you asking me? Well, look, I've spoke to Mark and Mark's up for it and so am I. And I said, well, if you're up for doing it, then and Mark's up for doing it, then so am I. Because then somebody's going to pay to bring my mates to my doorstep. I'm the only one who lives here, so they're all coming here.
Right.
that's so nice.
So,
Because Paul's down in is it New Zealand? That Paul's
yeah,
there?
so we did it, and afterwards we had an after show in the Bridewell upstairs, and I invited about a dozen Frankie fans who'd been
Like super fans.
supporting me for years, and have
Right.
been to my gigs. But I also got hold of a load of people from our collective past
Oh, that's
and
so
invited
nice.
them. So there's about the Leather Pets. With their first time I'd seen the Leather Pets together, 42 years, amazing. And the testament to how good it was, of the last 10 people to leave the building at 4:30 the next morning, Me, Mark, Ped and Paul were 4 of them.
That's so nice.
We had a great time. And the whole Eurovision experience, it was quite stressful.
Really?
Yeah, because we don't really speak to them. Do you know what I mean? But it's like, so we'll do this dance.
Is this Holly you're talking about? Yeah.
And we'll do this dance and we'll get on and we'll do it because we can be professionals. And this is great for Liverpool as well.
Sure.
Right.
And it's coming back to where we start. And the quote of the whole experience for me was Mark O'Toole. Said, I've come here to cut the head off the monster. And I went, that's perfect. That's how I see it as well. And none of us wanted to go any further than that. But it was like after that, I knew that someone's going to be going, look at those numbers, look at those numbers. And I'm just going, no, I don't want to do it.
And is that what happened?
Yeah, but it got to the point where I just said, look, I don't know how many times I'm going to say no. I don't know what the other guys want to do. They might want to do it. So drop me out of these emails, because if they do decide to do it, then these numbers you're talking about is none of my business. It's nothing to do with me. So leave me alone and crack on with it. But nobody really had the appetite for doing it, really.
Can I ask you a question about the current situation of the music industry? Not necessarily from the artist's point of view, but from a consumption point of view. You know, I mean, you have grandchildren, right?
Yeah.
So by definition, you have your kids are, you know, they're millennials or they're Gen Z, I guess, right?
There's a Gen Z in
Gen
there,
Z somewhere in there. Anyway, and so I guess as you being their dad, they, you know, by definition, they understand the work ethic and how hard people work and, you know, what it's like to be a musician. But my daughter is 17, she'll be 18. And she thinks music is like free. You know, we had the experience in the 80s, you know, of going to the store, buying the record, the cassette, you know, ultimately a CD, but just actually the experience of tangibly or having it, putting it into the player, you know, choosing the song you want. If you get the whole album, great, you might get 10 or 15 songs, but then you change the song and it's a physical, tangible experience. And now it's like, you can listen to 15 seconds of a song on TikTok.
The thing with music, and this is the biggest thing that's changed in music, and being the age I am, I was on the advent of this thing, the Sony Walkman.
Yeah.
And this is like this music from that point in the mid-80s became an individual experience. Right. When really, from 16 years of age, music was a collective experience.
Yeah,
we listened to it together.
Good point.
We listened to it together, and I hope that that's what vinyl is bringing back to younger generations. That yes, vinyl's great because you can't walk around with your record player.
No, you have to
strapped to your bike.
Right.
You got to invite people around, and it becomes this collective experience
really good
again.
Point.
But vinyl sounds rubbish, and it's a hill I will die on.
I agree.
Wait, it's to people who've been listening to MP3.
Right.
Vinyl sounds amazing because MP3 just sounds like FM radio.
Well, it's compressed, yeah.
So wait till you get it, when you hear CDs, and wait till you've got a proper job so you can get a Bosch stereo and listen to what it sounds like on that. With the value of music now and what you were saying, somebody said, you know, this little pocket on your jeans here,
yeah.
You know what that's for? That's for all your Spotify royalties.
Don't I know it, babe? Don't I know it?
Fantastic for the punter. Absolutely appalling for the artist.
It's horrendous.
Do you know, I've got to pick up on the CD thing. I remember because I was actually selling hi-fi, top-end hi-fi equipment at the time. And it was, you know, the Linz Sondek, I think it was.
Absolutely,
you know, turntables and everything. And these turntables are uber expensive.
Yeah, yeah.
You bought the tone arm separately. The CD was coming out and the purists hated it.
Yeah.
And somebody had come up with an idea. The CD had come out and somebody had come up with an idea. Oh, we've come up with this thing where you can put the crackle back into it. Well, just buy the album then, you know. And I'm the same as you. A record, great when you first get it. Once because nobody looks after records, and it sounds like shit. You know what I mean? So I would. I mean, I'm happy. Give me I'm probably a bit more like, you know, discerning. I'll have a WAV over the MP3.
The last album I released was recorded in glorious 24-bit digital stereo.
Yeah.
And mixed by my mate who's won 2 Grammys.
Right.
And mastered by another who's got an armful of awards. And people are going to me, you're bringing it out on vinyl? No.
No.
I'm not squashing this brilliant sounding product
all the frequencies
onto
are
plastic.
staying. Yeah. So going back to the Bridewell, the conversation in the Bridewell, because 18 months, you could arguably say at that period, quite meteoric in a rise, really.
Yeah.
It's a fairly quite... So, I mean, what was your mindset like at the time? Did ego come into place where you're like, I'm Brian Nash, I'm in Frankie? What were you like as a person?
No, I've never been like that. I've only ever said, you know who I am in jest. I have given other people permission to drop their name when it's absolutely necessary.
Right.
Like I needed to get tickets to see Ricky Lee Jones recently in London. And it was like, I couldn't get on. Drop the name.
Yeah.
It's like releasing the lifeboat.
Yeah. Got it. Sometimes you got to do it. Yeah.
And she was amazing. I got, again, to be back here is an interesting thing about if there is a legacy of it, in that living in London with 7 million other Joes just trying to go and do their thing, I could count the amount of times I've been recognised on one hand in 30
It doesn't help
years.
that you've gone the same follicle route as myself.
I held myself back from that.
Yeah.
I held myself back from that, Roy.
Here, it happens every couple of weeks, and it's always overwhelmingly positive. It's brilliant.
That's lovely. You must feel so at home, obviously.
Who doesn't want to meet strangers in the streets who go, oh, Nasher, aren't you? Loved your band, lad.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Oh, yeah, back in the days, you missed that and all that. Before the Eurovision thing, I think I did an interview with Dave Monks on Merseyside, and I said, you know what? What I'm looking forward to most is the other guys in the band getting some Scouse love, because they don't get it where they are. And I'm getting all of theirs.
Where do they live now? So one's in New Zealand, you said?
Paul's in New Zealand, Mark's in Florida, Peter and Holly both live in London. So when we met up on the Thursday night before with the Eurovision thing, I walked into the hotel and I was seeing Mark O'Turner. The first time I've seen Mark in 20 years. Spoken to him and seen him on the Zoom and all that. I said to him, have you had any Scouse love yet? And he went, Nasher, I pulls in at the station, got out and put these suitcases on the platform, and some fella went, you're Mark O'Toole.
Yeah.
So like literally within 10 seconds of being back here, he got spotted on the station.
Oh, that's so lovely.
Yeah, and it's massively positive.
Yeah.
And that it's really great. And because it hadn't happened for years and years before, you kind of forget what that feels like.
Yeah.
No, but it's a testament to the time, the era, that we could look back at 80s and really remember, again, like the physical experience of going to see the band play, buying the actual CD, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, how many years later you play it on the radio, you know it. And we've had this conversation many times where, will my daughter or my sons, like actually in 40 years' time, have the same connection to the music that's playing today the way we had it back in the 80s? And so the appreciation for you is so genuine. It's so authentic. I can't imagine that actually happens today. I mean, like, name me a couple of contemporary artists right now that you think would have fit into the 80s vibe, or, you know, someone that you respect as an artist today that you think could sustain the test of time, you know?
I can't listen to music. I don't listen to music like other people listen to music. And it sounds like a really arrogant thing to say, but everything is a critique. Everything is like, I wouldn't have done it like that. And there are 5 bands maybe that make me feel like a fan. The Cure, the real people from Liverpool, who I've followed since we were all 16, 17.
Right.
And I will go to their concerts and I will stand 20 feet from the front and I'll sing every single word and absolutely love it.
Right.
Peter Gabriel, Ricky Lee Jones. Oh, God, my recent experience with Ricky Lee Jones, I went with Miles Hunt from the Wonder Stuff, and he was going to the gig, and I met up with him. Because someone had dropped the name on my behalf, we got reserved seats, 6 pews from the front of the Union Chapel. And she came on stage and she started playing Weasel in the White Boys Cool, which is the first track from the first album. And I'm crying.
Oh.
And I just, Miles had said to me before.
When was this?
This was the end of last year.
Okay.
Said, he said, I've got the handkerchiefs and I'm sitting there and he's obviously clocked me and the tears rolling down my face and I just see this white thing coming into me face.
It was a tissue?
What a crazy woman. Thank you. But I cried about 6 times because she's just one of the patron saints and we have to go and see these people.
I felt about that when I saw Stevie Nicks. I was so, I was such a fan.
Well, the last gig I seen that I really enjoyed was I went to see Kneecap at the O2 Academy, and I walked in and there's about 800 people in there, and you used to go to gigs years ago when you were young and it was exciting and you can smell it. Yeah. It's crackling. Yeah. It's going to go in here. It's
the experience.
And it felt like being at a punk gig in 1978 or 1979, a post-punk, and it was exciting and it was fantastic. And like a contrast to a couple of months before I went to see War on Drugs, who were like, they're all right, you know what I mean? It's like, it all kind of sounds like a load of Tom Petty demos to me. And they got a couple of banging tunes. I'm standing there with a pint and loads of other fellas my age, and it's like, I can't do this. And I gave them 7 songs, which is about 4 more than I usually give most. It's just like, I've heard it all before.
It's like when I've been to Carl in the O2 a few times and you think, right, I'm the same as you. So I like to sit down when I watch entertainment these days. When you get to that age and you think the idea of like, okay, let's all go and get to the island. And there's not, you can't walk with 4 plastic pints of lager. Yeah. And then as soon as you get there, it's all spilt all over the place. So I don't enjoy it. Just coming back, I know you kind of focus on what's happening at the moment. I'm very nostalgic, mate. Going back to the recruitment of the band, am I right in assuming that Paul was the last one in?
Yeah, I actually seen Paul's first performance with Frankie Goes to Hollywood because they were touring with Hamby and the Dance, who you will remember. Hamby had just signed a big deal with Virgin and was on tour, and Frankie was supporting them, and they played at Pickwick's. Yeah. And I was in the audience, and Paul jumped up with them.
Did he?
And then it was like, so he got the gig after that. So I'd actually seen them play a couple of times before I was in the band. Like there was one, he played in a gay club called Joldies, which is about the size of this room. Yeah. And when they come on stage, they used to come on to the team from Mad Max 2.
Right, yeah.
And the smoke machine's on and the strobes are going and someone's turning the smoke machine on and they couldn't turn it off. So you imagine this room here and it's like the smoke machine's going for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
So
that happened to me once.
I heard the first 2 songs without seeing what was going on. It was just strobes and madness. Yeah. But dead exciting. Yeah. Like the Kneecap thing, going to see that was like, yes. And everyone here is up for it.
I always thought get that. Paul had a presence. Would I be devaluing by saying he was your best?
No.
You know what I mean? Because just for your answer that, I used to think, because you'd have all these musos in the room and someone comes up and says, what do you play? I don't play anything. Well, we're not having him in. He's not playing a guitar. He's not playing the drums. It's the entire thing about Frankie. It doesn't work unless all of it says me who's going to watch Ollie later in the year, but for me, as a collective, when everybody's together, and Paul, for me, was the icing on the cake, just that tiny little thing that he brought that made it whole for me.
He was amazing. And you know what? Just a beautiful human being.
Yeah. I've met Paul. I met him
in 40 odd years, never had to cross words with him.
Yeah.
And when you're thinking that at that time, when they're all virtually living in each other's pockets, and he's always just cool. And, and all right, He doesn't really tend to get involved in anything of like, he gets copies into emails and that, but he never responds because he can't be arsed, probably. Yeah. But it's like when I was at this release, this release that's coming out in June, there's been a ton of...
Oh yeah, tell us about the release. Yeah, what is that?
I was going to ask, that was my next question, is to tell me about anything that's happening.
It's kind of like a box set of Pleasure Dome, and there was a ton of stuff that initially got thrown into the laundry basket, and some of it was like, yeah, that's all right. Some great recordings, which unfortunately aren't going to be on it because it didn't get the 5 X's or the 5 ticks from everyone, of recordings from the Bridewell that were done on cassette of Lover's Got a Gun and 2 Tribes and Relax, which was mad. Is
this a remastered, like what's happening?
There's
it's like
a
greatest hits?
There's Atmos mixes that have been done by Steve Wilson, who's Mr. Atmos from Porcupine Tree. He kind of tends, he's like the 5.1 Atmos guy that everybody goes to. And he's the one that kind of was the encouraging record labels to go, give us all the Genesis stuff and the Yes stuff and all that prog gear.
Right.
And we can remix it in 5.1. But I haven't got a 5.1 system, so I didn't listen to it. And to be honest, I didn't listen to most of it because I've got better things to do at the time. I'd rather listen to Nicky Lee Jones.
For the listeners that we have, I'm sure they're going to be very interested in this.
No, it is. There's some stuff in it that people will dig.
That's great. Well, I'm excited about it. I'm super
excited. I know we're going to move on.
Yeah.
That's one sale.
Yes, one sale. That's me.
Definitely two, mate.
Okay, yeah, two.
We're going to move on to that in a sec, but just before
I want a signed one from you. So we're going to hunt you down again. So you can sign it for me.
Okay.
Before we do that.
If I get a promo copy, you can have mine.
Yeah.
I should get a promo copy. I promise you that right now.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Everyone's a witness.
I mean, for me, my favourite Frankie song is Welcome to the Pleasure Dome. Bar none. But people might be surprised, and I love Two Tribes, and I love Relax, and I love Warriors to the Wasteland. But your rendition, the band's rendition of Born to Run by Bruce Springsteen, I thought was exceptional. Really exceptional.
I always tell Prowsey it's better than Bruce's, and he doesn't like it.
Well, he won't. Me and Prowsey's a friend of ours. And, Peter Kelly and Amsterdam.
He won't have it.
No.
He's and
the hackles
go off.
He makes Ian Pratt. I mean, we've been taught politics. Obviously, features within Frankie Goes Hollywood. I would say Ian Prowse makes you look like a Tory.
Yeah,
he's a lefty or like.
Well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news.
Oh no, yeah, because we're on time, aren't we?
I know.
Yeah,
well, just a little bit, but I mean, at the end of every podcast, we do a cute little 80s trivia. You'll probably get them all. It's not.
I was on Pop Quiz with Mike Reed.
Oh, listen to this.
Wow. Okay. Then you're gonna get this, and there's not going to be anything.
Some people really bombed in this bit that we've done.
Actually,
people
some
in
people.
The period as well.
So I'm just mixing them
I've
up.
picked myself up there, haven't I?
You set yourself up for the fall.
I better deliver there.
No, actually, I was doing really well until I tanked. I had a really dry spell on this. Okay, so we're each going to take two, and we're going to ask you a couple of questions. So 1, 2, totally random. And
Stacey was good at hearing the questions, not very good with the answers. I don't think you're going to get any of these.
Really? Okay. I promise they're very random.
Is it 80s music or 80s?
80s trivia generally.
And it's British and American. So it's like, it's not just, okay.
Do you want me to go for it?
He'll get mine. He won't get my second one.
I'll be impressed if you get these. Right. And this is the easier one I'll give you first. All right. Red Butler, Layla Orange, and Shy Violets were characters in which cartoon series? I haven't got a clue.
Let me see.
There. Whoa, have you heard of that? Because I haven't.
I have.
Is it American?
I'm not sure.
I don't know what it is.
I've heard of it, though.
That's a shit question.
Should we give him another question?
Ninja Turtles.
No, Rainbow Bright. That was a shit question.
Yeah, take that one.
Because do you want me to give you the other shit question before I do this one? You won't get this either. In the cartoon series The Raccoons, what is the name of the industrial capitalist who threatens the natural habitat?
No, take another fucking
Rocky.
Cyril Sneer.
No, okay, you take this one. I'll read mine.
Where did these come from?
Right. I told you they're random. Take this other one.
Right, okay.
Okay, well, let me read mine.
Go on, you do yours.
Because you know that you're going to totally get this one.
You might give me a chance of these.
Okay, you're going to get this one. Work began on which European transport link in 1988?
Eurotunnel.
Yes. Click. You got that one. Okay.
Okay.
Now you read.
You'll get this. If you don't get this one, I'll knock you out. love there. Scouser love. Jessica Fletcher is the elderly character in which TV show?
Murder, She Wrote.
I knew he'd get
do you know, I didn't know that. I never watched it.
I guarantee you about 90% of the women who I send through the curtains in my current job love Murder, She Wrote.
And who'd knock about with that woman, someone's going to get bumped off.
All right. I don't know if you'll get this. It's a multiple choice. Butterscotch and Blossom were names of what? A, Cabbage Patch Kids, B, Beanie Babies, or C, My Little Pony.
I'm going Cabbage Patch.
I would have said that too, but it's My Little Pony.
Oh, right, okay.
I don't know what, I remember Cabbage Patch.
Yeah.
Right, here we go. You'll get this one, I reckon, anyway. What bit operating system was the NES, Nintendo Entertainment System? Was it 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit?
It was 8-bit, wasn't it? When it
8-bit.
started?
Yeah, he knows his computers as well.
That's good. Well, there are lots of actually. I think there is a Frankie Goes to Hollywood question in
There
here.
probably
Actually,
is.
no, there was because
Yeah.
we just asked it to one of the guests.
Yeah.
When they come up on the chase and stuff like that, I always get a text when someone goes, it was on the chase.
Well, I have to say, it was such an honor to have you here today. I mean it. It was very exciting for me, especially because
this is the point where Nash says, the band's getting back together. It's happening on the...
you don't understand. I would burst out in tears if that was the case. I'd be right in the front row.
No, not for me. I don't know if they would at some point. I don't know.
If they all
and
did,
there's a
would
thing
you?
they say, never say no.
I know you don't have that
I
interest.
don't, I'm having too much of a good time.
Oh, yeah?
I absolutely love what I'm doing now. It's fantastic. I'm 5 years into it. It's become so much a part of my life. I've got 3/4 of an album sitting on a laptop that I just haven't got round to finishing. I've had half a room somewhere, sharing a room with someone, to make some music, and in 2 years I haven't recorded a note.
And we haven't asked what you're doing at the moment, have we? So let's just briefly get that.
Oh, I'm doing the funeral celebrant. Yeah.
There's one for you. If you're a funeral celebrant, a member of your management team from back in the day dies, would you be the celebrant?
Yeah.
Given the history.
Do you know what? You know whose funeral I did? Janice Long's.
Oh, right. Wow.
And
who is she?
Janice Long was prolific. I'll let you can.
Janice there should be a statue to Janice in this city. First female to have a slot on Radio 1 daytime. Worked for Radio Merseyside here. Promoted Liverpool and Liverpool bands every given opportunity.
Right.
One of us, when other ladies came into the industry, she never pulled the ladder up behind her. Or people like Liz Kershaw would say she was my big sister. She looked after them.
That's wonderful.
And she rang me up and she was going to Costco and I lived just by Costco and she said, "Hey, I'm going to Costco. You live by here. Do you want to come over and have an hot dog?" And I said, "I can't. I'm in the middle of writing a eulogy for someone." She said, "Oh, what do you mean?" I said, "Oh, I'm doing funerals now." And she said, "Oh, wow." Always dead enthusiastic about it. She said, "You'd be great at that. You can do mine if I go before you." And she died.
Oh, my God.
I got to host a very intimate ceremony for her and her family at Springwood Crematorium. And then afterwards, we went to the Florrie.
Well, that was very personal. That must have been very special.
Well, probably the hardest eulogy I've ever had to write because I know that I'm in front of my contemporaries. I'm reading this in front of my contemporaries. Yeah. It was 12 minutes long. I spoke about Janice. And when I finished, I said, I'm going to stop here, and I don't want some polite applause for Janice. I want you to make it sound like someone's just told you the Beatles are getting back together, and I want some clapping of hands and some stamping of feet, and for one of ours, and she was, and it was afterwards. There had some people from Radio 2, and I'd been the ultimate professional in doing this and coordinating the ceremony and doing what needed to be done. What I wrote was beautiful. And at the end, this guy from Radio 2 said, "Can you come up and just say a few words about what, your role today and blah, blah, and talk a bit about Janice?" I sat down and started talking to this fella, and about 2.5 minutes into it, I just said to him, "Mate, I'm going to have to stop here. Let's go and have a cry somewhere." Because it was like, I'm not there to cry for these. I'm there to be professional and represent these people. And I knew Janice, and she was always cool. And it was like, now this is all over. I've done my bit. I've read my bit. The ceremony's done. And it was like this. Someone had took the valve out, and it was like, and the emotion of the occasion hit me. But it was like, I remember driving up to Liverpool coming up to see the real people. We'd be listening to Janice on the radio. And I say to me, "Mate, text her. What should I text her? Tell us Nasher and Grant's going up the road to see the real people play some bunny man." And she'd always give us a shout out on the radio. And it's like, that's boss. That's really? That's me mate on the radio.
Fantastic.
And there should be a statue. There should be a statue to her.
To have somebody that is in your corner from the moment. And that's, I understand that as an artist, when you have someone who just believes in you so much.
She was in everyone's corner.
Yeah.
That's
lovely.
it. Yeah,
That's
honestly.
lovely.
The likes of which you don't really see so much. And not a lot. I mean, I'm sure there are one or two people out there that fall into that category, but not to the same level.
You know, in terms of the mantle, I would say the mantle has been passed from, because she worked with them at Crash, is Dave Monk's. Doing what Dave Monk's doing with, you know, finding the new music and championing new music, which is, you know, in a lot of ways, it's a quite exhaustive and thankless task because you're trying to push stuff onto people that they don't necessarily want to hear. And you've got to break past that thing that I'm listening to Dave Monk's because I know he's going to turn me on to some good stuff. Like we used to listen to John Peel, because we know John Peel's going to play some good stuff. Or whoever it was, you know, in your local, you know, definitely not Rick Dees, though.
And on that, mate, unfortunately, we are out of time. But
good, because I'm going to see the Reds. I'm going to have a few beers and get back in the game.
There you are. That'll give an idea as to when we recorded this then, won't it? But listen, mate, Brian, you're so articulate. I love listening to the way you put things across. There's so much more.
No, but very insightful also, especially for someone who's not from Liverpool. But I do spend an awful lot of time up here to hear all that history and, you know, how important for like you as an artist and the band are to just this city and to the country. And I think to the world. You guys really made a huge impact, not just on me, but I mean it. Like,
me too, definitely.
You know, you've made it into the 80s trivia game. So, you know, there you go.
My mate used to say, you know, the statue on Matthew Street was the 4 lads who shook the world.
Yeah, Beatles.
But my mate used to say about me, Mark and Ped, it would be 3 lads who shook their bollocks. I think that's a fitting note to end, isn't it?
It is great stuff. Brilliant, Brian. Thank you so much.
I'm already getting up. My butt cheeks fell asleep.
And thanks, of course, for watching. She's doing a bit of aerobics there anyway, and we shall be back with another Gen-X-Perience podcast in the not too distant. Thank you for watching. Thanks very much for checking out the Gen-X-Perience podcast. Please do like and subscribe. We look forward to your comments, and if you could give us a 5-star review, that would be really appreciated.